All right, we are live. Welcome, Jimmy, my new friend.
Hello.
So, you guys, for those of you who are just going to be joining us, we just did a live over on Instagram, and Jimmy popped on, Springfield, Oregon boy, man now, but grew up as a little boy when I was coming to his school when he was a kid. And we are going to talk about Black Lives Matter, and we're going to have a conversation that you guys get to be involved in. And who knows where this is going to go, Jimmy, but I am so damn excited. So tell me, kind of just start how you want to start, okay?
I mean, yeah, sure. Like, my name's Jimmy. I've lived here in Oregon for 25 years now. Oregon is my home. It's always felt like it's a place that's belonged to me. I belong to her. It's something that I take great pride in when I say I'm from the PNW because I think this is the most beautiful spot in the entire world. I genuinely do. I'm a educational assistant over at Cascade Middle School. I also lead the Black Student Union over there. I'm also a little fun fact, side hustle. I do a wedding officiating. I do elopements and weddings all across the state. I'll drop you my IG handle later, Rick, so you can check her out.
Yeah, in case I get married again. Yeah.
If you want to renew your vows somewhere beautiful, you never know where life could take you.
I do that too. I was used to do that. But I actually like doing funerals best because you don't do them 3 times.
Oh, see, there you go.
I only die once, you know. So Jimmy and I were talking over on Instagram, and I think that it's sometimes, well, let's just get right into it. So we were talking over there and about white privilege and the conversation that we need to have. And you were talking to me about your thoughts on what are your hopes for the Black Lives Movement? What do you really want to see come out of that?
I hope the Black Lives Movement personally is just so big that it can't be ignored or dismissed like it has been before. I'm going to be completely vulnerable and honest with you guys. When the Black Lives Matter movement first came out, I saw it as isolating. I didn't know what the Black Lives Matter movement even truly meant or what its mission statement was until I started working a couple months ago at Cascade Middle School when a student wanted to kind of make a joke about it. And I was like, no, that's serious to some people. And then I did the research and I realized Black Lives Matter means it's not that we are a statistic. We're not meant to be, not to be cruel or anything, but cannon fodder for people on the news, like, oh, another black man gunned down or another man killed by police and stuff like that. When you say Black Lives Matter, you're not putting our lives above yours. You're saying, hey, this group of people who've been marginalized, disenfranchised, and taken down by systematic racism in the United States, they belong with us. Equality all across the board. All Lives Matter is trying to take away the power of that and saying, yeah, but what about the rest of us? Like, the best comparison I've seen online is when your wife asks you, honey, do you love me? And then you say, honey, I love everybody. What's that going to make her feel, you know?
And because you and I were talking, sometimes as a white guy, it's really hard to stay involved in the conversation because I feel like sometimes my privilege is used against me and I want to be a part of this conversation. And so you were so gracious about understanding that. And you and I were talking is white people need to quit trying to run the conversation. And as my friend Chad Brown said the other day, another African-American gentleman, Rick, just listen. Best advice I've had, Jimmy, is start to listen and to what your heart is saying, not what the news is saying or what culture is saying, but listen to what your heart is saying as a black man in America.
It's truly, that's the biggest thing. Like, Rick, I can't give you enough praise for that. Honestly, listening has so much more effect than people can give it credit for. But a lot of times people might misunderstand listening as a way of just putting that on until they can be speaking. They're not really listening. They want to just be heard. And I think the biggest thing about this movement and everything that's happening right now and the whole white privilege aspect of it is just use your ears and just listen to what's going on. It's going to be hard conversations. It's going to be uncomfortable conversations. You're unfortunately going to deal with some people from, our side who are a bit extreme. But if you just bear with them and just let them know, hey, no matter how this goes down, I love you and I'm going to help you figure this out. It's going to move so much. It's going to move mountains, man. At the end of the day, it's really going to make a world of difference for us.
So when you saw George Floyd being basically murdered.
He was murdered, yes. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was murdered.
Was that you?
That was me. That wasn't just me, but that was also my father too. because George Floyd had some similar characteristics to my own dad. And as I'm just sitting there watching that, I just think, here we go again. This is another George Floyd, another Eric Garner, another, Philando Castile. There's just been so many times where this has happened over and over. And the one thing I think, I don't think I stand alone on this, Rick, but as a person of color, you watch the entire thing. You don't just see a snippet of it, or you're just going through like Facebook and then it pops up and you're like, oh, no, I need to skip through that. It's my duty, as in my own personal beliefs, that you watch the entire thing happen, because what if that was me? What if I was this person on video literally being killed right before somebody else's eyes, and somebody just decided, I don't want to see that. I don't want to bum out my day. I'd rather just see how my nieces are doing, or I'd rather just, check out a recipe real quick. It's almost like a weird respect for, it's like a respect for the dead, if I can put it in such callous terms, because I just feel such a connection to them, because these are the people who look just like me. People who could have done something any one of us could have done, but unfortunately, since they got dealt the wrong cards at birth, they had a darker skin pigment, and that worked against them.
Do you get tired of people then looking at Floyd's past and trying to come up with reasons why this happened to him, which is pretty kind of sick, actually?
It's disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah. So you discount, because for you, this is bigger than any of that.
It's something that I think is insane, that we, even as a society, attempt to do these things. We attempt to dig into somebody's past after they've been murdered in cold blood on videotape, which I can't stress enough, that is what happened. And we want to say, okay, he died, but he also, he went to prison before, so he probably died. I can tell you right now that a good portion of this audience knows somebody who was in prison, probably a loved one, family member, friend, somebody like that. And you can't tell me that they're going to say, yeah, if they go to prison one time or go to jail, they deserve to die. Especially all these people who say, like, I'm a Christian, or I've lived with Jesus in my heart and stuff. You believe in forgiveness. You believe in loving your fellow man. You believe in taking your clothes off your back to help out the needy or help out somebody else. So how can you say who deserves to live and who deserves to die? And how can you justify somebody dying if it is over a crime that small? A $20 fake bill? Like, what?
So here's a question from Misty. I'm just going to read the last part. She's disgusted by the whole thing, but have a hard time getting behind the movement because of the violence and destruction. And I would just kind of line in there with her too. I understand that. Well, and I should just shut up. But I think there's a lot of people that are going, destroying people's property. You guys, but the Black Lives Movement, I'll say this, only that first night, and I saw African Americans on video going to the white people saying, stop doing this. This is not what we're here for.
I agree with you 100% right there, Rick. You kind of hit it on the nail on the head. If you look at the video of the people who are looting, the people who are rioting, the people who are actually causing this destruction, you might be surprised that a lot of the times the protesters are the ones who are intervening and saying, stop, what are you doing this for? I mean, I'm not sure, if you're old enough to remember the World Trades, when that happened, the riots that happened in Seattle back in the 90s. But when Antifa and other rioters jumped in, they were trying to completely disassemble the protest and what the bigger cause was. So everyone just saw all this violence and destruction and assumed that people were just looking to even the score. I can't tell you how insane it was, because I drove down in person to actually see the protesters in Eugene the first night protesting happened, and seeing people light stuff on fire and smash out the windows. But the one thing I did notice was the people who were doing that were white people. Right. Not even my people, not even people who have been dealing with this burden or having this invisible like gremlin on their back their entire lives of like, hey, you're going to die before you know it because the system has the cards dealt against you. It's insane to see that happen to somebody else. And I'm like, are you kidding me again?
So tell me about the gremlin.
So the gremlin is this voice. It's very hard to describe, but that's kind of like the way I put it into terms, because I've been myself even going to counseling the past couple of years. That's a huge thing that, as a person with ethnic backgrounds, is it's hard to overcome that, because there is a sign of weakness of, hey, if you're a man, especially because I am Hispanic and I am Black, they look down on me for going to see somebody and talk about my feelings or letting my emotions get out, you know? I think the thing is that the gremlin is this voice. It's this thing where Anytime you walk into a room and people see you, they instantly have that little notice, the ding, that's a black kid. Or if you see somebody on the news get murdered, hey, that guy looked just like you, or looked like your mom, your brother, cousin, sister, any one of these people. Or you just feel like there's just something about anytime you get pulled over by a police officer, you need to make sure you're not doing anything too brash. I mean, how many times have we heard on the news that a black man was gunned down by a police officer because they have a trigger response? They're expecting something to happen. I'm 6'2", 250 plus pounds. People see me and they think that's a big dude. Some people see me and think, oh man, I don't want to get in a scrap with that guy. I'm not a fighter. I'm not a gun toter. I've never shot a gun in my entire life. I'm not somebody who believes in violence. But people, based on the kind of the world that we live in and the kind of the world that we built, expect me to be a violent person, or expect me that when shit hits the fan that I'm going to just go absolutely crazy on everyone.
And you experience what some people have told me is like when you walk in a shopping center or something, that people will edge away, or women hold their purse, or that they think that you're going to attack them because of the color of your skin?
Oh, absolutely. I think that even walking around in a store when I was younger, people look at me almost like with the expectation of me doing wrong. It's like, I can't stress it enough, but it's like in the Netflix documentary, The 13th, black people were labeled as criminals. You see us and you think criminal. You think even with the background of history, just society. And I'm not saying you, Rick Dancer, because you are a very open-minded man and you have a great dialogue with people, just everyone across the board. But there is that thing of the history of there's a criminal right there. There's something in him where there's malintent or something bad is supposed to happen.
Well, see, and I think I might do that sometimes. I used to more before I started hanging around people who've been to prison. Even with white people, like if I saw some, and look at what people do, and I'm not discounting Black Lives Matter. I'm just having a conversation.
No, freely.
People do that with people they call tweakers. So you see somebody who looks like they might be, why do we judge? Why do we have to label people? Why can't you just be a man rather than, and there's nothing wrong with being a black man.
No.
But I don't go around to my white friends and go, oh, look, here's Bill, my white friend, or here's John, well, I guess people still do that too. There's John, my gay friend. It's like, why does everybody, so that's probably white privilege, huh? We don't have to be called white. We just have to, we're just friends. Everybody else has to be a certain kind of friend.
Well, I can tell you this right now. It's something in our society, how we just as human beings are meant to stereotype, or meant to put labels on things. We look at things and we have to be able to put it in this neat little box and say, that's it entirely. There's nothing more, there's nothing less. Like, hey, there's this gay man here. All he is gay, that's it. He can't be anything more complicated than that, because then that opens a bigger conversation on how complex each of us are. And the thing is that we aren't born with this. I'll give you an example. My partner and I, we've been together for close to a decade. She had a little brother, like kind of surprise, little brother, and he's 9 years old. We've been around since before he was even born, and he looks up to me like a father figure. Like, I've been somebody who's been there to help raise him, help him be heard, help him be. And he looks at me as somebody who is a role model for him, and he has never once looked at me like I was black. He never once looked at me with the stigmata of being different from him. In fact, if anything, there's been times where he's even like wanted to be more like me, where he asked me when his hair was going to get curly too. And I think that's just the most adorable thing in the world.
Right. So Barbara writes on here, the BLM message has not been clear. This is the first time I've seen sign that says BLM means BLM doesn't mean. It has been seen as BL is better than everyone else. And I agree with the protest, but people lying in the streets is intimidating to drivers. We wonder, are they going to swarm the car? Then when they do, the driver takes off in fear. That is when protesting becomes rioting. I could relate to Kaepernick's kneeling, but it is still seen by many as, and then it goes away.
Yeah. I'm going to answer you directly, Barbara. Like, I hear you and I see you, and I do know that what you're saying is true, because I personally, again, didn't know Black Lives Matter meant, because when it was created, there wasn't really much discussion for it. And I can go ahead and go all day saying, like, maybe there's other powers to be, maybe it was something greater than us, media, like, like kind of like invisible shadow puppets pulling the strings. But I just want you to read this blurb to you real quick about like what Black Lives Matter means. Black Lives Matter begins as a call to action in response to state-sanctioned violence and anti-Black racism. Our intention from the beginning was to connect Black people from all over the world who have shared a desire for justice to act together in their communities. The impetus for that commitment was and still is the rampant and deliberate violence inflicted on us by the state. So that right there is saying we're trying to connect ourselves amongst our groupings, because unfortunately, Black people, we don't really have a big connection altogether. And I'm not saying that this is something that, you know, we're using as a way of being like, aha, we're getting a step ahead of you guys. We're catching up. It's a permanent game of catch up. There's never going to be a time where Black people will outlive or outdo white people. I'm not saying that as a way of being racist or trying to disrespect you. This is just the society we live in. This is the America we live in. Even something such as disrespecting the flag, as I saw Barbara's comment, I can tell you right now that I, as an American, have never disrespected the flag. I see somebody drag the flag on the ground. I'm like, no, you pick that up, you holster it up on like the sand and stuff. I don't believe in disrespecting the flag. But the thing is that as a Black person in the Black experience, I see where they're coming from. And that's not a conversation you're supposed to have with me. You need to have a conversation with them.
Don't just as many white people with different groups disrespect the flag? I mean, I don't think this is disrespecting the flag is not a Black Lives Matter thing.
No, disrespecting the flag is an everyone thing. I think every time somebody holds up a Confederate flag next to the American flag, that's disrespecting the flag. You're saying that you would rather have the South win versus the actual Union who won and unified our whole country.
So Chris Plum taught you in high school, said you're a model student. Sadly, there were in the same school, and Jimmy handled it with grace and Plum and shouldn't have had to. That's the difference between what whites and Blacks experience.
You know, I'm going to kind of go off of what Chris said. I did have to deal with a lot of racism growing up. I grew up in a state where there's 2% of the state is Black people, I think they said on a recent poll. I didn't have people who looked like me. I didn't have people who spoke like me. I wasn't the most athletic student in the world because I love playing sports, but I was more for playing for the fun of it, not like, hey, I'm going to be the best one on the team. I speak, you know, the way I speak, and all the time I always have people say, you're not Black enough. You're not somebody who deserves to be Black. You like act white and stuff. I felt like growing up, I never really had a group to belong to because I always saw Black people portrayed in the media as one way. And then people telling me, well, you need to be like that or you're not truly Black. And that's another part that's so much bigger than the rest of this. But the Black experience that I had was dealing with racism and not allowing myself to feel isolated. Because if somebody were to say a racial slur or say a racist joke and stuff, and I call them out for it or I say something about that, instantly everyone looks at me like, oh, there's the Black kid. He's just angry. He just has all this stuff that he's just trying to cause a fuss over, and we're just trying to have a good time. I get made to feel like I'm just by myself on this island. And the minute I try and swim ashore, people are like, well, shouldn't he be grateful that he's on dry land in the first place?
So you were too light to be Black.
I was. It was as this rapper Tyler the Creator once said, I was too white for the Black kids, too Black for the white.
It's kind of discouraging.
It is. And the thing is that I've lived with what I've lived with. I've taken the burden on. Growing up, I wasn't the most social kid in the world until about high school. I didn't really know how to connect with people. I grew up in Springfield, Oregon, went to Page Elementary, went to Briggs Middle School, went to Springfield High School. And I've never really had a group that I felt like they had my back 100%. I always felt like it was up until a point, and it can be very isolating. And that's why maybe I see so much on both sides of the equation and stuff, but I just want to let people know that we have to stop feeling like this is just a matter of, hey, we're part of this group and that's it. No, this is something where the Black Lives Matter campaign isn't just a grouping, it's a movement. We're not talking about, hey, this group needs to be held up. We're talking, hey, this thing that we have, these laws, these things that keep happening to a certain group of people, that needs to be abolished. We need to do something about that. It kills me to think that Black people are the ones who are keeping others from entering the conversation or feeling like they can be welcomed. And I'm not somebody who can really speak on all the Black experiences because I only know my own. I just want people to see this and know that we're on our way to something bigger. This is our new American Revolution. And even if it's not something that we're going to like all together see in like the next couple of months, years, maybe, I don't know how long. I just want us to know that I want us all to cross that line together.
So do you get tired of white people continually trying to run the conversation? You and I already talked about this. So
we did talk about this.
This is unfair. I already know your answer, but
I'll change it up for you a little bit so that way it still keeps the conversation interesting.
Okay.
I see a lot of people now not asking to lead the conversation. I see people, I've had a lot of people hit me up who've worked in the wedding industry, which is predominantly white because we're in the Pacific Northwest. I've had a lot of friends from high school. I've had a lot of esteemed coworkers, teachers that I've been with, and they've reached out to me. And the thing that's different this time than any other time is they ask me, what do you need? What can I do for you? How can I help you amplify your voice? What do I say to other people when they want to try and push me away, or how do I do something when I'm being ignored? How can I make sure that people won't let this happen again? And that's the thing that I feel like people have really changed this time, is they know that this white savior complex that is something that we have had in this country, and I'm not trying to put anyone down for that. It's something that we need to speak to the people who are suffering.
I think you should be very bold and put people down for that.
I can't, man. I'm too much of a lover.
Okay. Now let me ask you this, because this is a touchy one. How I think there's some concern, and I will admit that I'd be one of them, about how do you get rid of police? And I mean, they're not social service agents, and so how do you? There's kind of this move. Although I did see what Congress issued today. And even of my police, some of my friends who are cops, they were reading through them, and a good percentage of those 8 changes that they're talking about, they're saying, yeah, that needs to change. So there are some things there that are really good that need to be changed. But in terms of doing away with, so there's talk out there, and I know you don't speak for Black Lives Matters all the time, but you're just talking for you as someone who agrees with Black Lives Matter. But to get rid of how do you have is it the police we need to get rid of, or the ones that are bad, and the attitude and change, so you get people in there that can truly work at seeing no color? And I don't, there, you take it from there. I just of asking a question, but it's because I don't know quite how to ask it without getting, as my mother used to say, my tit in a ringer.
Hey, that's fair. Mom was wise beyond her years. So here's my thing. Here's my thing about the race issue, about police, about all this stuff that we're kind of looking at with defunding the police. My interpretation of it, and what I'm talking about when I say defund the police, is taking away what it is that allows this system and allows this grouping to continue the violence, the hate, the fear, the enforcement, all that stuff that's happening. Something that's been happening for hundreds of years, for the longest times. We're talking back in the days when slaves were finally free, and then the police were able to arrest Black people for loitering, and then they got put basically into chains again and had to work in the crop fields in the South. Something that you can look up that this country did do. Right. Even if you're not saying that everyone was responsible, it was something that this country allowed because there was never any stopping of it. And people turn their eyes to that. Exactly. And here's what I'm going to say. When I say defund the police, I want people instead to look at it as a chance of, instead of having this police force that clearly has failed us and hasn't worked the way it's supposed to. And again, I'm not saying all police are bad, because I have friends and people in the community who I respect who are police officers. I'm saying let's look into alternatives. Let's look into better trainings. Let's look into social workers or peace workers, or people who are more intent on helping people de-escalate situations versus trying to take them down with a taser gun, or have a gun drawn, or feeling like they're going to go in there to bust some skulls. I mean, why does it take a police officer something like, 8 weeks to become a police officer? But if you want to become a hairdresser, that takes you something like 1,000 hours. How does that work? You mean to tell me this guy that I went to high school with, who couldn't even tell you the difference between Jupiter and Saturn, he's a police officer, but my friend over here who's getting a 4.0 on calculus and then decides she really loves coloring hair, she has to spend the next couple of years just running over and over again? Why is there this imbalance? I'm saying better policy changes, better training, more of an understanding of what it is that the police are there for. Instead of trying to find issues or trying to go in and bust some skulls or some, take some people down, let's figure out a way of encouraging them and saying, hey, these guys are here for the community. They're here to help us. So, Jimmy, how do you keep people in the white community? Like you and I talked about this before. You guys, we've had a run through on this already on Instagram by accident. It was just like a thing. And so that's why I talked to him into coming over here, and I'm paying him huge dollars to do this. But how do we keep white people in the conversation, listening and not discouraged? And I'm not sticking up for us. I'm just saying, you and I talked, and I've had people say, you can't be in the conversation because you're white.
And I understand I don't need to be leading the conversation, but in order for me to understand, I have to be in the conversation, because then you get frustrated and then you start being against something that you're really not against. I think there's a lot of people that feel like they're against Black Lives Matter because they feel like it makes them not matter. But then if we say that, then it's white privilege that's saying it. And then all of a sudden what ends up happening is
it's a vicious cycle.
We throw up our hands and say, fuck it, I can't do this. And we don't, you and I do not want that. I want everybody engaged. I want Asians and blacks and everybody.
Native Americans, everyone. Hispanics, everyone. The thing is, and this is the biggest part that I can't stop stressing, is we need to stop saying that it's us versus them. We need to act like that we are working together in this revolution that's happening right now. We need to work like we're all in this together. The best thing that I can think of is somebody who who I speak to, like my counselor who I talk to, is the issues that I have with myself, or the kind of like self-loathing or the kind of hatred that I have towards things that I don't like about me, is she tells me, you need to look at yourself as a child. How would you treat yourself if you were a kid? How would you speak to yourself as if you were a kid? You wouldn't talk down to yourself. You wouldn't put yourself down for feeling these things. You would want to speak to them and try and build them up. We all need to remember that we are brothers and sisters. Doesn't matter what the race, background, creed, walk through life. We need to stop trying to say, hey, you can't say this, you can't say that. I understand that this is a time for Black people to be spoken, like to speak and to be heard. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we still have an audience who wants to listen. Because once you lose the audience, then what's the point of even speaking?
Right. And as white culture, we need to sit back and understand that this is your moment, and we need to be listening to what's going on to be a part of it. And maybe that's our part, but to be listening really carefully and then trying to understand better. Because I mean, just you and me we've been doing this for like an hour and a half now between the two shows, and I'm getting a soft spot here for you. I'm loving this guy because I think you really are, I think you're just like the real deal stuff. And I'm so glad that a 28-year-old man can put this in perspective for a 60-year-old guy. And so you go to a counselor?
I do. Yes, I do.
I like that even more about you. I went to therapy when I was 30. I didn't call it therapy back then, but I mean, to really, I think every person needs to go in and figure out why you do what you do.
It's true. I think every person here, we need to, again, remove all these stigmatas and all these things that we put on ourselves. As a society, we are really hard on ourselves. It's like, guys, we need to learn how to love ourselves a little more.
And each other.
We need to be able to kind of stand up and say, hey, we don't know why this janky ass system exists, but it stops with me.
What's your biggest gift? What's the thing that you do that you think, if there's this thing that, I don't know what your belief system is, it doesn't really matter. But if you were put on this planet for something, what is that little thing that you do? Like if you ask somebody, this is my new question, and you should go do this to some friends of yours, because I think there's people on here. Joy Silence is on here. So people on here who would do that is go and ask somebody, what is it that Jimmy does really, really well?
Honestly, I just want to leave everything a little better than when I found it. I just want to be able to say at the end of my life that I was able to do something a little better for someone else. Maybe not take away all the pains and traumas and things that an individual has to deal with, but I made it easier for them to feel like they could relate with somebody else. Or even if it's like I walk through a park and I see some trash on the ground, I'm not going to stop all the people who litter, but I'll at least make sure that for the rest of the day, maybe that trash isn't there anymore.
So how come you care and other people don't? What is it that happened to you? What is it that you see? What is it that Jimmy brings to this conversation, this thing? How come you're able to see that? You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, yeah. It's because I grew up feeling like people didn't care. I grew up feeling like I was alone in a sense that I just had, like, I was this person. I was meant to always be happy. I was always meant to be this happy-go-lucky kid. Every day, like, my parents would tell me, hey, you were born, you have a good life, you should be happy. But if I actually tried to talk to them about it, they didn't want to hear me. If I tried to express to other people what it is that I was needing, I was met with oh, that sucks, or that's weird, why do you feel that way? I feel like the thing is that in my life, I knew what it was to feel, to have without, to feel like there was something wrong with me and I can't address that, feeling like I had stuff that I didn't understand about myself and I never will, and I just need to accept that. I was the kid who in middle school didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have people that I really hung out with. I didn't have people that I could identify with, let alone. I think it was maybe me and one other kid who was black at my school, and he wasn't the most culturally black person in the world either. Because again, look at where we lived. But I never had that group or had that posse where it's like, no, you're with us, let's go. Like, so I just look at every person who's ever felt like they can't speak up, or a person who felt like they didn't really have a lot of like love coming into their life. And I'm just saying, I have some, take some of mine. I want you to feel like you got enough coming from me.
So can you and I have do you care? Can we just go here for a second?
Yeah.
So you heard me speak when? When did I speak?
8th grade. So 8th grade or 7th grade at Briggs Middle School.
And you heard, if you remember correctly, you heard me talk about that very same thing.
Yeah, you did. I remember that. And I remember thinking that here's Rick Dancer, this guy who's got the coolest hair on TV, and he is such a real dude. And you still got the coolest hair. It doesn't make any sense.
But I never fit in either. And I never had a group of people, and people, it was so funny when I was a news guy, because people come up, oh, Rick Dancer. And I'm thinking, I'm the same guy that I was in middle school when you teased me and hated me and treated me like shit. And I'm still that guy. Inside, that Ricky Dancer is still there. And now, and I always thought that was funny, because I'm going, oh my God, think of all the people who missed out on Jimmy, or who missed out on Ricky, because I was the same guy. And you just missed out on this was the same person that was there all that time.
Yeah.
How we found a way. See, you and I are like, well, I'm a much older brother to you. But
you got a couple of years on me, man. But I think we're kind of on the same level.
I have kids older than you, but you and I that's why we get each other, because we're coming from that same place, and you really want people to understand not just you, but honestly, your people.
It's true. I think the biggest thing that I can't stress enough to everyone who might be watching this, or everyone who really is at home and just kind of watching this kind of like video, is even though you may not feel like it, there are others out there. The Black Lives Matter movement to me is something that showed, hey, that suffering, that pain, that anguish you're going through, we go through it too. The people who are coming out and speaking for me, and sometimes just, coming out of the woodwork even recently and just talking to me like, hey man, how you been? It just shows me that people are actually wanting to connect. You get it, man. You know what it's like for people to see you on the surface level and think, oh man, he's so great. He's so loved. Everybody likes this guy. But then on the inside, you ask yourself,
he thinks he's this and he thinks he's that, and not giving him a chance to see who you really are. And see, that's what you were seeing here. And I think I honestly, when you're talking, Jimmy, I'm going, dude, this is the total key to this whole thing.
It is.
People have to see your heart. They have to see the heart of African Americans, and not the Antifa and not the rioting. They need to see that it's almost like I hope this is okay for me to do, and I'm not trying to take this conversation, but it's almost like to see that you are screaming out after 400 fucking years, would someone please pay attention to my trauma, my heartache, and I just want to be seen, not better than you. I just want to be seen.
I can't stress that enough. I can't even tell you, Rick, how much it means to me for you to say that. Like, oh man, I just want to be seen. Even though you say, you'll never truly understand, you'll never get it, you are starting to get it. You are starting to see those things. And with how compassionate you are and how vulnerable you are, man, it's not going to be surprising how many other people are going to give Black Lives Matters a chance, or people who want to actually talk to you and I about these kind of things, because they see that we can all come out together. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing that I can't stress enough about everything else that's coming out about this is we only have each other. For the rest of our lives, all we're going to have in this human race is the person next to you, the people in your world, and all we can do is try and do better. I have an 8-week-old daughter that I don't want this nonsense and this craziness to be around by the time she's my age. I want her to look at me and be like, you kooky old man, there's no such thing as racism anymore. What are you talking about?
Right. I have a niece who's African-American, married to my white nephew, and she and I were talking the other day, and she's like, Rick, I got so much flack from my own community for marrying a white guy.
Yeah, it's true. I
have 3 great nieces and a nephew who are mixed race, And I don't want them to, when they go out and find somebody new, if it's Asian or Iranian or whatever, I don't want people to look at them and go, oh, we're still doing that, going, oh, you're, and look, they married. I mean, that has to stop.
Yeah. I want the biggest issue in our society, after all this stuff is done and after all these things that we are able to overcome and kind of get rid of, I want them to like ask like, oh, what team do you root for? Or what's your favorite video game? And then, the shit talking starts from there. Like, let's do it on such a superficial, like surface level thing that at the end of the day, no matter where the conversation goes, that person still got your back. Doesn't matter what they look like or where they're from.
Yeah. So last thing I'll ask you. So what's your hope? What's your hope?
My hope is people just say enough. My hope is that every person out there, from the most liberal, peace-loving hippie to the most diehard conservative, gun-toting redneck, can just look at the things that are happening and just say enough. Just to walk out there, get out into the streets, social distance because COVID is still a thing. But I want people to just collectively just scream, what the hell is happening? Stop. This is not America. My America is a melting pot. My America is a complicated, complex creature that is so many different things at once that the rest of the world looks at us and thinks this shouldn't work, but it does. I want people to just realize that there's so much more that we have to offer as a society and as humanity, that these little things that have been happening because of an old system that is out of shape and bent is done, and we're going to change it ourselves. We're grabbing the steering wheel and we're saying, nope, we got it from here.
Okay, I'm going to leave it like this. This is one thing many, many years ago, I was the president of the City Club of Eugene, and they ask at Christmas time, they ask you to give a gift to the community. And so my gift was the free lunch program. And the free lunch program worked like this. If you don't think you like an African-American, take an African-American to lunch. If you don't think you like gay people, take a gay person to lunch. If you don't think you like women, take a woman to lunch. If you don't think you like an LGBTQ, take an LGBTQ to lunch. If you don't think you like a Republican, take a Republican to lunch. If you don't think you like a Democrat, take a Democrat to lunch. And then when you're all done with it, you pay the bill because there's no government program. This comes out of your pocket. And I think if people like you and me start hanging out, grabbing a beer, having a conversation, understanding one another, and just not pay and let the world see it in action, I think the more we show, and you say everything you need to. The white community, we need to show it. You say it, we show it, it happens. I honestly believe that with all my heart. I think that is the role that happens here is you take the front. I'm going to be back there supporting you. When you come back and you need me, I'll be there, but I ain't going to push anything because it's not.
That's it at the end of the day, Rick. I think what it is that you are in a place of your life where action can be taken a little quicker than me. And if you're able to do that for me, we're going to get so many things taken care of. We're going to just all get out of here a little better than when we came.
Yeah, no, I think this is going to work. You have given me great hope. I was sad. I was telling you this in the other show. I was sad and kind of got up this morning going, God, there's Black Lives Matter, there's COVID-19, all this shit. What's the third one? They always come in threes. Well, for me, it's my broken wrist, but everything comes in threes, And it's like I'm going, and then you came on my show and, oh my God, Jimmy, you're like a breath of fresh, warm air.
Hey, right back at you, Rick. And honestly, don't give up, man. I know it's easier said than done, but don't give up because I believe in you and I know you believe in me too.
I do, and I don't give up. I'm too old of a fucker to do that.
Hell, I'm even thinking right now, I'm like, oh man, I need to challenge Rick Dancer publicly. How many people can you take with differing opinions out to lunch? We'll start keeping telling, like, oh, I did 3 out this week. Where you at, Rick?
We should make a club, and you and me will start this like the free lunch program, and people go, except they'll see us coming, Jimmy, and they'll go, oh shit, it's
like, all right, get the chips and salsa ready. These guys eat.
Yeah, it'll be just you and me sitting there going, well, nobody ever does this anymore, do they? No, I think we poured it out. Hey, my man, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you got big balls. I appreciate that. I mean,
thank you, Rick, for giving me a chance to speak. I really do appreciate this platform and for you using your voice to bridge these connections and to make these conversations happen.
Well, I'm just going to say, man, I don't throw this out there all the time like that, but I love you, man. You're an awesome guy. And I think I'm so proud that you're in my community and that you're a Springfieldite and that we can make this intolerable situation tolerable for the tolerant.
And I gotta say, I love you too, man. Thank you for using your voice to talk about where you're from and where you've been, and showing us that even when the whole world's looking at you like you have it all, you're still a person at the end of the day that needs a little more.
Yeah, always looking for something. All right, share this on your page, you guys. Now, you say we don't bring you good quality shit. You're not going to see that on KEZI.
Yeah.
There you go. Hold up your tattoo. Show up.
Right. Hey, this is from Area 51 Tattoo. Thank you guys so much. You were the best.
Did Chris do it?
No, it was actually this girl, Alicia. Alicia Cook is her name. She was amazing, super caring, and just honestly was the best kind of person.
All right, good. Well, there's more to come because all of a sudden I've got them over here. They're coming down this arm now. By the time you're 60, you'll just be one big thing.
I mean, I think you could rock one of these, man. I think they look good on you.
It's part of. I'll put that on my bicep underneath. Wouldn't that be cool? Under your bicep.
Dude, anytime you're pumping the weights, people are gonna be like, "God damn, Rick Dancer is cut."
Did you see that guy's got that wrist on there? Except that I probably have for people.
I got to tell you real quick, one thing that's so crazy about this Black Lives Matter thing that's so nuts is I feel like people are really banding together, and I've just been feeling nothing but nonstop love and support from so many people. Even my old hippie neighbor, Greg, across the street, I was taking out the trash the other day, and I said hey to him as usual. And as I was heading back inside, he's like, "Jimmy, I love you, man. Black Lives Matter." And I'm like, right on, Greg. Right on.
Well, that has to feel validating too, especially from where you came from, to go, you know what, now it's, and maybe that's got to be the thing we look for the thing. So people, when you're getting all excited about things, remember all the issues with how this works out can be compromised and worked out. The love part can't. And the way we handle it, the standing back and letting people go forward while we take a seat and listen, those are the little small things we can do in relationship. And then we'll iron out the details later. Don't let the media get us all sucked into all the details and the politicians and all the bullshit. Remember, behind all that is Jimmy and a whole bunch of other folks like him. And then there's you, the white folks. And we all got to figure this thing out. So
the power of love is so much more than you understand, guys. We can do a hell of a lot with it. So let's just keep on trying.
All right. See you, dude. I'll talk to you soon, brother. All right, man. You're the man. See you guys later. Have a good day. Share it on your page.